I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're diving into the great outdoors with author Mike Watts. He has a sensational book out there. It is called Riverbank Memories. It captures over 4 decades of angling wisdom and hilarious tales from wading through Southern Appalachian rivers. Whether you're an avid fly fisherman or just somebody who enjoys heartfelt storytelling, you won't want to miss this unforgettable journey into the great outdoors. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Mike, great to see you here today on Spotlight. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure is all mine. This is quite a book, amassed over 47 years or so of angling and fly fishing. What made you decide to put it all into a book?
Well, it took a lot of encouragement from my wife and daughter. I was a journalism major in college, and I liked to write. And as I started fly fishing and tying flies, I have a deep passion for it. And I started keeping journals and notes. I would write them on index cards, uh, composition books, and I accumulated this over a period of time. And it was time to put it all together. And with their encouragement, we put together Riverbank Memories.
Wonderful. Well, we're glad you did because for those of us who've never done any angling, this really brings you there. And then people who've done angling will really get, I think, an even deeper appreciation out of it. How did you get started? How did it all begin for you, your journey in the rivers?
I started fly fishing. I always wanted to fly fish. And I started reading about it and I got involved in some groups and they taught me how to fly fish. And actually, I still fish with some of the same guys since 1978. We've
Wow.
been lifelong friends, which is amazing. And we tie flies, we travel together. And the book encompasses a lot of the journeys and the fun times. You know, we never went on a journey without enough bail money, just in case. You know, you know.
You need a get out of jail
Yeah,
free card
yeah,
if you're
yeah.
gonna.
I needed to teach a bunch of lawyers how to fly fish. Just, but we have a good time, and I always just kept a journal,
Yeah.
and uh, I couldn't help it. I just had this passion, and they helped teach me, and in turn, I've been teaching people how to fly fish. I taught fly fishing at Clemson part time for 22 years, and over that period of time, I developed stories. I took 1,200 college students fly fishing,
Wow.
and it's you develop stories and you see things and you want to share this, and that's what I did in Riverbank Memories.
And you did it well. A couple of questions for you. I'll ask you this one first. Fly fishing, for the folks at home who only have seen kind of people doing it a little bit, is you're trying to recreate the motions of a fly, keep the lure at the top of the water, and get the fish to bite on rather than have a sinker bring the bait and the lure down.
Fly fishing is really just imitating the natural insects that live in the water,
Hmm.
and you're doing it with a fly rod instead of a spinning rod.
Mm.
And when you spin fish, it's the weight of the lure that carries it out. When you're fly fishing, it's the rod and the action of the rod and the energy it produces to carry the fly to the water. Flies can be underwater, called nymphs, or you can fish on top of the water. They call that dry fly fishing. And I like to fly fish for all kinds of species. I've
Yeah.
saltwater fish. I've chased sharks off the coast of South Carolina with a fly rod. Uh, all kinds of adventures. If it's got gills, I want to catch it with a fly rod.
Now, does your wife, this was my second question for you. Does your wife feel like she's a fly fishing widow?
There are quite a few times over the last 48 years that she's like, "What time are you coming home?" And I tell her, "Dark 30." So bless her.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this also. You talked about fly fishing for sharks. I mean, the fly fishing poles I've looked at look like they're very lean, very thin. So how do you actually get a shark on that thing?
There's much heavier fly rods. They're a
Okay.
lot thicker, a lot stronger. Actually, the really big fly rods are really stiff, so you can lay into them and play the big fish. But you don't hit them and play them. It may take you 45 minutes or an hour to get the fish in. So,
But you're
that's the
not
fun
reeling
part.
it in, you're just pulling it in, right?
I'm reeling it in, and there's big reels that
Hmm.
are attached to the rods.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha. Very, very cool. Give me some of your more unique adventures that happened out there, a memorable story or a funny story. Tell us what comes to mind when you get together with the boys from 1978 and you're like, remember that time? Give me one of those.
oh goodness, oh goodness. We we'll get in the car and drive. Back in 1982, we drove from Greenville, South Carolina to Baldwin, Michigan to salmon fish.
Mm.
And we stayed in this little hotel. And we didn't have guides. It was a do-it-yourself trip. We had tied flies, compared notes, and we went at this pretty much blind.
Mm.
We got up there, and the next morning we were leaving to go fishing, and the guy asked me, he said, "Did you guys sleep good last night?" I thought, "We've been up for not driving 19 hours. Yeah, we slept good." He said, "But those are brand new mattresses." I said, "They are." I said, "They sleep good." He said, "I bought them from the Holiday Inn at a good sale." So I was like, oh my gosh, it's those kinds of things that come
Yeah,
in, stories that you never plan on, but just happen. And I tried
exactly.
to incorporate all those kind of notes and occurrences in the book.
Yeah, it's like part of the adventure, doing the 19-hour drive, sleeping on those Holiday Inn mattresses and all of that fun stuff. You were in particular drawn to some of the rivers and streams in Southern Appalachia. Tell us a little bit about why you chose there to do your angling.
Well, I live in Greenville, South Carolina, and I can be in western North Carolina in about an hour, hour and a half.
Hmm.
There's thousands of miles of rivers, freestone rivers that have trout. A lot of them you have to hike up to, but it's a good place to fish, and you can get solitude, and there is good fishing, and there's a lot of history to the Southern Appalachians.
Hmm. Exactly. Do you get some good meals on the road?
Yes, sir. And then we get some not so good meals. Uh, you can't judge a restaurant by the sign.
I
Uh,
know. Yeah, I've
we
gotten some
went,
good meals driving around south. When I was a news reporter in Atlanta, we'd go out to the outer reaches every now and then and get some good, I think they called them meat and threes, where you'd get like a piece of meat and three different side dishes like collards and macaroni and cheese and cobbler. And that was my best favorite part of living in the South.
and you always got the cobbler first. Get the get the cobbler.
Exactly.
We had one restaurant that we went in on a fishing trip, and the food was terrible. I, I couldn't hardly eat it. I couldn't. The other two guys couldn't eat it. But there was one fella that just kept raking it in, and he kept going back to the buffet, dipping his plate. And finally he sat down. I said, "This is terrible." He says, "I know, this is the worst meal I've ever had." And I said, "Why are you eating it?" He said, "I'm trying my best to try and find something good, you know?" And I
He
was
was
like,
going to go
"Oh,
through
the
every
power of
tray on that
positive thinking."
cafeteria buffet line until he found something good. He might still be there for all we know. Hopefully, you didn't have to bunk up with him after eating all that food that wasn't so good.
No, he slept in the car.
There you go. That's a wise man. What advice would you have for somebody who's reading your book, hasn't done any fly fishing yet, is kind of intrigued by the lifestyle? How do you get started?
The best way to get started is join a group like Trout Unlimited or Fly Fishing International. And those groups are located all over the country. And get involved with those groups because they'll put their arm around you and take you in and start teaching you the ropes and find a mentor. that will take you fishing.
Exactly. And you were like a mass mentor when you were teaching at Clemson, right? You were, like you said, 1,200 students.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I remember my first class, and it was part time, and the kids, it was an elective, and they get an hour class, hour credit for it. In my first class 23 years ago, I walk in and there's 50 sets of eyes looking at you, and they're waiting for me to say something profound. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I asked them how many have ever fished, and over half the kids in the class had never caught a fish.
Wow.
It caught me by surprise because I thought everybody caught a brim on a cricket, and it kind of motivated me to keep going.
Cool.
But that kind of helped fire the passion, as you say.
Yeah, well, I think that's great. The students were lucky to have you. They had a fly master there for sure. And when it came to choosing courses, I'm sure they were like organic chemistry or fly fishing, organic chemistry or fly fishing. I would choose fly fishing too.
Uh, Me too. Me
And you know
too.
what? The fly fishing will keep them fed. I don't know about the organic chemistry.
Well, I tell you what, they learn how to fly fish, they'll have a hobby that'll last a lifetime.
Exactly. Do you prefer to do it alone or prefer to do it with buddies? Because sometimes it looks like a solitary pursuit being out there and casting your fly.
We fish together and we fish alone. We may go to the river and break up a little bit in different sections. You fish this section, I'll fish that section. We'll meet up a little bit, compare notes, uh, talk about what's going on, and then sometimes we'll fish together. We fished so long together, we can kind of synchronize. You fish the far end, I'll fish the middle. And we'll kind of take turns and go down the river and give each other a hard time. Because with this group, you've got to be thick-skinned and don't take it personally. It's
Exactly,
nothing but
exactly.
laughs.
Exactly. I think whenever the boys get together and they're doing their hobby, you better have a thick skin because somebody's going to be the brunt of all those jokes, and it's usually me. Particularly if you ever saw me out there trying to cast or angle or whatever, I would.
Right,
I'm
right.
going
And
to
I
need a
thought,
lot of tutoring, a lot of intensive help, Mike. That's for sure. The name of the book is Riverbank Memories. It captures over 4 decades of angling wisdom and hilarious tales from wading through Southern Appalachian rivers. Whether you're an avid fly fisherman or someone who enjoys heartfelt storytelling or someone who's curious about this sport, you won't want to miss this unforgettable journey that is documented within the pages of this terrific book. Mike, thanks so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
thank you. I appreciate it. Have a
I
wonderful day.
appreciate your time. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.